Hello, everyone.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, pretty
Pretty
good.
good.
So we had a good meeting, I think, and presentation on the material we have. I don't know if any of you noticed that I added the latency information that we discussed with the optical in the optical discussion, and I added that into the slides. There were also comments with regards to low power that I'm adding, low power version of PCI in the future for short reach. And then I'm planning to rev it up to 1.0. So let me share my screen and kind of share the slide and the content that was added. I'll open it up here. Sam, when are we starting the work on the optical PCI group? Is that starting anytime soon, or I heard from Tom that there were a couple meetings maybe I missed.
Yeah, so they've, I think, met a total of 3 times now, every other week since September 7th. Open to PCI SIG members only. It's been all under what they're calling the optical work group.
How do we,
There will be a sub team that Chris and I will run that will focus on link analysis and form factor specification, or I should say maybe definition.
okay,
And at this point, they're going to pretty much run every other week, sort of TikTok style. This Wednesday at 8 a.m. is going to be the optical work group. There's supposed to be some presentations from end users talking about application goals. And then November 1st will be the first meeting of the sub team. And we're really going to try to focus on link topologies and how we evaluate the solution. So we have I think right now, Chris and I have targeted 3 presenters to kind of lead that discussion to help us get to a deeper level, as opposed to some of the more high level discussions that we've been having in the ad hoc group and that have come out of the requirements meetings here.
Hey Sam, I don't see an invite on the November 1st yet. Have they been sent out yet?
You're correct. I don't see one either. So I will. I do think we have the one for this Wednesday, and then we have 8. So yeah, Yeah, it's a good point. I'll make sure that goes out no later than tomorrow morning Pacific time.
Great, thanks.
So the way to get into these meetings, you have to go onto the SIG site, and as a member, you can actually access the agenda and
Yeah, so the best way to participate if your company's a PCI SIG member is to log into Causeway and register for access to the work group, and then you'll be put on the distribution list for all the invites. Anything that gets posted would get an announcement via email. It just helps you track the activities that way. For Wednesday, if you I know your company, Mom, is a member, so I could send you the invite if you need it.
All right, thank you. If it makes it, and usually Alvin Cox was the guy who represented a company. Right now, it seems like we need to pick somebody to start attending these meetings, which including me. But I'm not usually the person who does that, so I'll have to identify who's going to be from Seagate.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the section that I added into the version of the spec that I'm working on is just the what we discussed in the optical discussion about latency needs, and where we're right on the borderline with PCIe 6. So I kind of wanted that to stay in the spec as a stressful, to stress the criticality of latency for, not everyone who is going to use CXL is looking for a single NUMA hop, but there's, there are two applications. Some are more capacity focused and some are more latency focused. So, but if we want to capture the majority of that market, we really need to at least stress that latency wall aspect of it. So if everybody's okay, I would like to go ahead and move the spec to 1.0 with this addition. Is there anything else we want to add? Like CMAC at some point requested that I add an example pooled memory appliance concept. I feel like it's a separate effort. I discussed that last week, and the week before last, and I suggest, in my discussion with both Meta and Microsoft on the CMS side of the house, the composable memory system team, Manoj and Samir suggested that we open up the appliance design concept into that CMS and add that as a hardware project instead of trying to do it within this extended cabling solution. So, anything that comes out of that in terms of that would, require additions to the type of cabling that we discussed here, which I don't think so. They suggested that we can always rev it up from 1.0 to something else. But at this point, we'll keep it at 1.0, release it, and continue to meet maybe on a quarterly basis or something, just so that we see if there's a need to do anything else. Richard, okay, any comments on that?
I do a bit. I think I need to be careful because yeah, this is turning into a slide that basically bashes retimers. It's got negative aspects of retimers, but not the positive aspects. But
I can fix it. You maybe suggestions. I think we're talking about with the application of optics, the goal is to reduce from protocol retimers, reduce latency, because representing the problem, and it's not really the attempt to bash, honestly. You know me, and I'm using retimers and I plan to use retimers. It's just in electrical world, but in an optical world, if we can get away by reducing latency for the goodness of CXL, I think that's what we're saying here. Is there a way you think I should phrase it differently?
Yeah, good point. This was why I was hesitating to say anything. I think, yeah, I don't know how I'd rephrase it because this has gone in actually, hasn't it? This has been presented already, hasn't it? Obviously. So
it was presented because we presented it to the PCI group, and this is the last capture, the last edit that I was asked to make. I wish you kind of early.
I think maybe the point is that the retimer is a trade-off between latency and interoperability. You've heard the SIG say that, what it's trying to do is define the interface
Right.
And the retimer is the only specific interface that allows that.
Maybe we
But
should add a statement to that. And if you can help me with that statement, that'll be great.
yeah, let me do that. I'm just going to take a quick screen capture of yours, and then I'll put a couple of words in as a discussion point for a proposal, really to balance it out, because at the moment there's no, what do you get with the retimer on that? Well, you get an interoperable solution, which is a positive. So I just want some sort of balance in the argument there if it's
Yeah.
going to be sent
Yeah.
on.
I
Thank
think
you.
where you can start by saying there are two types of CXL users, like CXL or NVMe, PCI users. There are extreme latency users and moderate latency users. And depending on, what trade-offs they want to make, both should be options. But for the extreme latency, this statement that I made is correct. For the moderate latency users and capacity focused memory expansion, the simplification of terminating and making it where it's interoperable at the connector is worth it.
Yeah, and I don't disagree at all that where the pressure for the industry must be, what you really want is an interoperable solution that is also low latency. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we have to split it between applications that care about those different points, then that's a pragmatic solution to it. Okay, thank you. I'll stop and I'll make a couple of comments. Thanks.
Yeah, so right now I put it in the slide, and I, feel free to, um, let's exchange some emails, and we'll finalize the spec and to everybody's agreement. Any other subjects to discuss? Is LK here? No, I don't see him. Well, at some point, Sam, is there a next phase? Because it seems like there were some proposals that are based on the current connector, the CDFB, that this is, good enough. And, this presentation before mine talked about the fact that you could do up to 4 meters, et cetera, with passive, as long as you put the retimers on the board. Now, the concern I have is, from an OCP perspective, we want to make sure that we eventually come up with a requirement that meets a specific specification that's published by somebody. So who is going to go venture into specifying a connector and specifying optics that work for Gen 6 and Gen 7 and stuff? Is that going to be part of the SIG, or do we need another body?
No, I think you'll see a lot of that work take place within this optical work group and the optical sub-team. So I expect the work that you're talking about to start taking place, at least being kicked off next Wednesday, when we talk about link topologies and methodologies for assessing link performance and technical feasibility.
What about connector type like OSFP XD, or, was there a proposal on that, or is that something going to be worked out within an MSA, or what's the plan on proposing the various connectors?
So each of these connectors is kind of defined and maintained in different areas. CDFP is maintained inside of SNIA SFF, OSFP-XD has an MSA. But I think the idea would be that the optical work group, optical sub-team would perform the link evaluation and recommendations on what they'd like to see out of the form factor if it needs to be changed or modified. And then there will likely be representatives that are working within the necessary groups to then go and drive the changes to the form factor.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is I'm, looking to see if there's any work that I need to do or help out with, or is this something that who's going to champion that effort all the way to completion? That's
Yes, at the link level, I think that's where the physical layer, that's where PCI SIG will likely sort of drive things.
okay. So we just need to
I think on
participate.
yeah, I think on the OCP side, I think it's just maybe helpful to maintain like a healthy target of what the use case is, what the application space is. Like there's certainly people within PCI SIG that want to see a root complex through an add-in card to a pluggable port type of topology. And that type of topology just naturally lends itself to a retimer on the add-in card, which
Right.
is basically what that presentation before yours at OCP outlined.
Yeah.
Now, if you do that, I guess to Richard's point, it doesn't necessarily paint the retimer in a poor light, but it does sort of pull the retimer out of the module. So I think some applications, and I think there's going to be a presentation on this November 1st, don't do that. They actually wouldn't like to have an add-in card. And then certainly having OCP's perspective on all the different NICs that are being put out there,
Right.
especially as we go to like edge computing type things. And the idea of a CXL appliance, I think, for external cabling is still pretty new. So
Right. So none of these address the appliance, the pooled memory appliance form
yeah,
factor, but
right.
I'm that's what I was talking to Manoj and Samir from Meta and Microsoft about the CMS, the composable memory system, to define a blade, because I already have a blade that we showed in our suite that basically is a starting point, right? It's a proposal, so it may get changed in terms of width and height and stuff and length, but it's a starting point. And currently I have QSFP-DD on it, and I'd like to see that as one option. The other option, we need to have OSFP XD for by 16 connections, etc., as well as QSFP, standard QSFP for by 4, because it's shorter. And so we'll have to see what we come up with, but at least it will be a blade with enough width on it that allows room for depth, and it will be deeper than most of these, and more than 300 millimeter deep, and then hopefully about 4U, 3 to 4 OCPU in terms of width. So we'll as soon as I open that up, I think we need to leverage that. There is a SNIA PMM as well. I think this is the PMM that was mentioned. Form factor.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, a starting point, but it's kind of different because it's not giving enough depth. It's still using the old, what do they call them? The 8674 connectors. And I would like to see more depth provided here. Anyway, so let me take the first step here, and then I'll let you know when we're gonna start that group and invite this team to join.
And so that'll be work stream within OCP?
It will be Workstream under the CMS, the Composable Memory System.
Okay.
Group. Yeah.
And they'll be looking at, that'll be developing a base specification or a reference specification?
It will be both. Initially, we'll have to see which one is going to go. Is going to reference design or a base design. So we'll have to. I'll let you know what they decide. We haven't had the first meeting yet.
Okay.
They asked me to start it, and I'm gonna do the work, do my homework, and ask for permission to share all our design work and as a baseline, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
All right, so Richard, I'll wait to hear from you, and then I'll convert it to 1.0. We'll discuss the content, put it in the document, and then release it for contribution.
I think Richard dropped.
Oh, okay. No problem. Yeah, he had to leave. All right, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye.